to Pat Soundbytes IGTV. Keeping new music alive is what I do on the radio and now on video. Conducting live chats with the artists and learning the stories behind their latest release, and also playing their new video. Special thanks to Dustin Hardman, the rep for Golden Robot Records, for coordinating and scheduling today's guest. Special thanks today to my sponsor, Go-Go Tuners, for all guitar players looking for a focus on ease of use, readability, durability, and accuracy. Look no further. The Go-Go Tuner is the choice of many touring professionals and a favorite of casual players. Go-Go's signature green you're in and red you're out screen makes tuning quick and easy. For more information, go to the website at gogotuners.com. Special thanks to WBXO Classic Rock Radio Redefined, allowing me to keep new music alive on the radio airways on the Pat Show every Sunday from 5 to 8 Eastern Standard Time. Only on WBXO Classic Rock Redefined. And a big thank you to Mr. Evan Balzer for allowing me to use his amazing instrumental that you're hearing right now. It's called Trails. To find out more incredible music by Evan, go to his website at evanbalzer.com. And my guest today, well, it is such an honor and privilege to have one of the greatest bass players of all time on my show, the Fretless Monster, Mr. Tony Franklin. Tony's latest project is called VHF, as in Todd Vinny Vinciguerra, Joel Hoekstra, and Tony Franklin. And the album is called Very High Frequency. It was actually completed back in 2014 and now re-released by Golden Robot Records. And my goodness, this is something you've never heard before. I talked to Tony about the concept of this band, how it all started, these amazing tracks, the videos, how he got into the firm, reading music, the importance of it, and so, so much more. One of my best conversations and interviews ever with the one and only Mr. Tony Franklin. All right here on Pat Soundbytes IGTV. Hey, live on Pat Soundbytes IGTV, keeping your music alive on the radio and on Zooms and video and any way I can do it. Man, am I blessed today. What a great show, and talk about rockin' masterpiece new music. Oh my smokes. I mean, I could curse about it, but I'm not going. I am blessed to have the one, the only, the Fretless Monster, Mr. Tony Franklin in the house. How are you, Tony? I am I can't stop smiling.
That's an incredible intro. Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to talk with you and for everyone to tune in.
Oh, my goodness. For the fans out there, I mean, Tony, been following the young Tony, I remember in the firm, and then Blue Murder, and then the list goes on and on and on. And oh my goodness, sir, what a career you have had. And I can't thank you enough for your time. But man, this has got to be the album of the year. And it's what a great story, really, that started in 2014. So much to talk about, but I don't want to keep you out all night here. Tony's involved with a band called VHF. Very High Frequency, which is really Todd Vinciguerra. If you remember Todd on drums, he played with Beth Hart. And, of course, the amazing Joel Hoekstra of Whitesnake, Night Ranger, Cher, TSO, and now VHF, and now this gentleman, Tony Franklin. And this band, this sound is nothing like you have ever heard before. Trust me, 7 tracks, groove-oriented, trippy rock built from the drums up. My goodness, sir. And the band recently signed with Golden Robot Records, who have re-released that this was done in 2014. Tony, why so long? Oh, my God.
Well, VHF, of course, stands for a very high frequency, but also very conveniently, Vinciguerra, Hoekstra, and Franklin. So, you know, if it had been a different guitarist in there, it might have been something else, VHS or something. But anyway, it was built from the drums up, and Vinny Vinciguerra had this idea, and he and Joel go way back, and so. But Todd approached me, Todd Vinny Vinciguerra, and he said, I have this idea of building this thing from the drums up, starting with grooves, and then give it to you, and you do whatever you like. I will give you no guidance, no input, nothing. You just do whatever you think. And then we'll send it on to Joel to do whatever he wants to do. We started with one track, which ended up being Whispers of the Soul. And, you know, I didn't know what to expect. This kind of thing that could go badly. Well, yeah, it's like, or it could be great. And so it's like, hey, it sounds like an interesting experiment. And by the way, it was done before, you know, remote recording was really a thing. We all did it separately. He did his tracks first, did rough tracks first, because then he was going to play to my bass afterwards, and then sent it to me. It didn't say a thing. He didn't say a thing. And it was very interesting because the structure of them was not obvious. There was definite little interesting grooves and time signature and little changes that I definitely wasn't expecting. So I thought, okay, I really wanted to do something very, very special with it, not just get in there and jam and, you know, have it be. I wanted to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and be engaging all the while. I mean, that's how I like to construct my bass lines, so that they tell a story, that they keep you engaged. Obviously, you know, you're taking care of the low end and the groove and all the basics, but as a composition, I wanted it to make sense. And so I did, and we sent it back. Vinny played his drums, and then Joel did his thing, and he really did a number on it. I mean, on some tracks, there's like 20 guitars and little sounds, and Vinny was the mastermind behind it all, that put it all together, including the videos. And he put it all together, and we were so blown away with that first track. It's like, yeah, let's do more. So we did another one, and that turned out great. And you mentioned earlier that you liked suspended animation.
Absolutely.
And that's one of my favorites too. And that one has a very unusual structure to it, because at the beginning it's got this kind of modern kind of Zeppelin kind of feel. And then like midway through the song, like halfway through the song, it changes completely and goes to this slow section. And I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be a bridge. No, it went to the whole of the end of the song. And so it's like, how can I make something interesting? I didn't want to change what he did. I wanted to keep it. And so I came up with this big, long descending section, and I envisaged like a spaceship descending into a black hole, into
exactly
oblivion.
My notes was like a space ride on a journey.
Yeah, and Todd, who worked at NASA, by the way, for a while, he put together this real trippy video for that had all this universe stuff going on, the stars and the interconnection of everything. And then Joel, well, he did some fantastic guitar parts and melodies, but he also did these wacky vocals too, and narrations.
That spoken word. I'm like, the spoken word. Saying?
And it's humorous too. I mean, he's like, suspended animation is basically talking about, from news clips, all these experiments that were done of freezing animals to see if they can sustain, and then waking them up, and then all that stuff. And it's kind of trippy stuff, scientific experiments. But at the end of it, he says something like, which just goes to prove that absolutely nothing, just complete nonsense. So it's like you have all this heavy music going on and this deep conversational scientific study stuff, and then at the end he just says an
injection of blood into your bloodstream and cells, and I had it so cranked up. I'm like, what is he talking about? And then, like you said, the end, it was like, what? I mean, when you got it back from Joel, I mean, every track, there's 7 tracks for our listeners. You go to Golden Robot Records, go get it. It's on Amazon. It is, every piece is so different. I mean, you talked about Whispers of the Soul. I mean, that Middle Eastern, I mean, I don't even know what water he was drinking, because every piece that he put together, when you got it back, Tony, you must have said, what happened here? And I'm sure you said, well, let me ask you this. Was any of the pieces touched since the original in 2014?
No. And so that was done like that. And the reason why, we wanted to find somebody who really got it, because we put this out and we tried to promote it and, market it all yourself. And it's tough. You really have to dedicate a lot of time and energy into that. And so Golden Robot came along and they saw what we were trying to do. They saw the vision and they said, we can do something with this. We want to help put it out because it needs to be heard. So nothing was done. It was perfect. I mean, I described Whispers of the Soul. And by the way, Joel's parts were so good, those lead parts and everything. But the thing is, you got to remember, those were put on last. So you could listen to that and think, oh, we played the track to accompany him. But it wasn't that way at all. It's so strong. You think that was what he did it first, but no, we created everything else first, and then he did his thing. Which means to me, you need fantastic musicians that really listen to each other. Vinny's not playing like crazy over the top fills and trying to steal the limelight. He's not doing crazy stuff. He's doing some great stuff. But everybody's respectful of each other and the music. And that's what I love about this. Nobody's trying to outshine anybody else. We're all complementary and we're all trying to bring the best out of the music. And so, we were all blown away with everybody's things. And it's like, I mean, actually, Vinny had a heck of a job, because on that one, there were literally like 20 guitar parts and atmospherics and different stuff. And he kept them all, all for little ear candy, like Pink Floyd, little noises. And so there's a lot going on with that stuff. But, I didn't know what I had in mind to go on top of that. When I put the bass track on that, I'm thinking, what the heck is anybody going to do to that? But Joel really tuned into it, and the same on all the tracks. And so it turned out, so that experiment turned out well.
I was saying, Tony, you've been involved in so many great albums over your career. Creativity-wise, is this one of the best albums that you've been involved with that really brought you outside your normal boundaries, that you love doing stuff like this?
Great question. I mean, I put equal amount into all of them, but what this did, this tapped into a whole different side, because it was a different kind of creativity and different kind of challenge, because it was playing to somebody else's thing, but at the same time, it was really making me dig deep into my creativity. And I spent a lot of time on those tracks, making sure, as I said earlier, that they made sense and were engaging and had a beginning, a middle, and end, and were exciting and kept people engaged. So I can't say if it's the best or anything, but it certainly was a different challenge. And fun too. I mean, it definitely brought out a different side. I think the same could be said for all of us, because somebody commented that I'm hearing different tones out of Joel that I haven't really heard before. And I think that's true, because he wants, like we all do, we try to play what's right for the music in front of us. And there's nothing that we've done that's been like this. So he dialed in and tuned into what this music needed. And I think it's some of his most creative stuff ever. It's really, I mean, he's wailing. He's having fun, he's getting some cool sounds and exploring, and some wailing solos. I mean, some of us, he always does. I mean, he's amazing.
This is one of a kind. I have never heard anybody put this together like you said, from the drums up, and just get this file and say, go for it. And then you hear Joel's end and you get it back, and it's like, it's mind blowing. It is so good. Who put the names? Who put the names together of the songs?
That's all Vinny. That's all Vinny. I mean,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's a song called "Backside of Your Eyes," and there's a video for that on our channel too. And that's my eye close up, by the way, on that. And so Vinny came up with the title, and what it does, he came up with some great titles, and what that does, it kind of sets you in a mood. It gives you a bit of a flavor. And so Joel, he came up with there are some actual lyrics on that. Can't always tell what they are, except for backside of your eyes, like this Western kind of figure. And then he sings backside of my eyes. And so that came because of the title, and what Joel gets into that as well. He hits some notes on that I didn't even think he was capable vocally. He's a fine vocalist too, and so that explored a different side of him too. So I mean, it really did. It was a vehicle for us to explore and stretch, but also have fun. As well as it being trippy and heavy, it's a lot of fun throughout.
I read an article, and I love the way you put it out there. When you're playing in a live show, it's all about live music, and you go to a show, and you don't want to hear this saying, you don't want to hear the song like the record. You want it to be expanded and people add a little. And I read it, you said it's like a conversation. You're playing bass, and you're playing a conversation to the guitar player and looking back for his or her answer, and you play off of that as well as the drummer or the vocalist. And I've never heard of anybody say that, but it really put a thought into me that I really understood it. And I like the way it came out. And like you said, this is somewhat jamming, but on a way, it's a conversation that you tagged off of Vinny. And then Joel answered back with amazing creativity that nobody would ever expect. Right?
Yeah, and it was nice that Vinny went back in and recut the drums. I mean, he kept everything pretty much the same, but he was able to add in some of those conversations that, he initiated it, but then he didn't hear my response. So, but I love that aspect of live. And here's the thing, not every situation is built to be able to have that dialogue on stage. I mean, there's to lesser degrees. I was very fortunate that in both The Firm and Blue Murder, we were the ultimate musical conversationalists on stage, where we put stuff out there. I mean, even before the first Firm album was released, we were playing it differently. Even before, because we played some shows in Europe, in November and December of '84. The album came out I think in February of '85. And so even before it came out, we were stretching and having conversations which would be different every night. I mean, I hear some of those early shows, and it's like, wow, we're really stretching out and going for it. And so by the time you get on the road and everything, that to me is the ultimate. But not every band, not every musical environment will allow for that. It's not appropriate. I mean, you don't go in and stretch certain styles of music. I mean, I've been very fortunate to play in a lot of different situations. I mean, in 2017, I was in Japan with one of the biggest artists out there called Yazawa Eikichi. And he's just massive. He holds the record for the most amount of shows at the Budokan. Wow. Now, nobody knows that. Most out of anybody, including Clapton and anybody. So, but that was very scripted music, and you play it, and that's how it was. And so, I mean, I still had little dialogues within that. You find how much you can chat.
Right. I believe that.
So the key is to be able to go wherever the music will allow and find your role in that. And so with VHF, it was a unique thing because there were no guidelines set.
Right?
Yeah, no boundaries, but no guidelines either. And so it was as wide open as we wanted to go. And so I'm interested and excited for a second one, because you got to keep that going, which we are planning on doing. And but the thing is, we really didn't think so much on the first one. We just did it and thought, oh, let's see if this works. We didn't even know if it would. And so the key is to go in with that same frame of mind and not be thinking it too much. Just go in and throw some ideas down and make them work. So,
right. I mean, you almost got to like refocus that you don't even have the first album, I would think, and just go, because now that you got the first album, you're like, well, I did this, I did that. Should I stay with that? I mean, you don't want to get complacent because the whole idea was totally out there, right? Am I right with that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's a whole different psychology with the second albums. It really is. It's exciting. It's a challenge, but it was a different challenge on the first one. So we just had fun and just went for it. We just got to do the same on the second one.
Outstanding, beautiful, brilliant, magnificent. Everybody's got to buy this. There's nobody that's heard this before from three incredible musicians. Tony, I got to ask you, while I wind down here, how does a 20-year-old guy get into Firm to go? Paul Rogers goes, we need a bass player. Let's get this 20-year-old Franklin guy. And Jimmy goes, sure, bring him in. And now you're into Firm at like 22, 23. You pinch yourself going, oh, wait, there's Chris Lane too. Oh, my goodness. How did you audition? I mean, I got the opportunity to hang out with Paul, but I never had a chance to ask him because he had a show getting ready to get on stage. But tremendous soul. What a great guy. Tell me how
Paul's amazing, and he sounds better with age. He's
phenomenal. Velvet. Did you audition for the Firm, may I ask?
Well, it's kind of a little bit of a long story, but the short version is I'd worked with Roy Harper for many years. Many will know, but some may not know that Roy Harper sang on Have a Cigar, on Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here. There's Led Zeppelin 3, the tribute to him, Hats Off to Harper. And he and Jimmy Page go way, way back. Jimmy would guest on Roy's albums, and Roy actually opened for Led Zeppelin quite a few times. So they go way back. Roy's like this I call him the British Bob Dylan, and he's such a poet, but he's a master at the open tunings and the folk guitar and the finger picking and all that. A big influencer on Jimmy in that regard, and the Pink Floyd and all those guys, they respected him hugely. So I did a chance recording session with him in 1980, and it went well. And I toured with him, did a bunch of albums, and then fast forward to 84, he's doing another album, asked me to be involved, and Jimmy's doing it with him. Now, go back a few years, I was not a Led Zeppelin fan in the slightest. In fact, I was put off by them at a younger age. Did not know anything about them.
Really?
I mean, middle of the Firm tour, 1985. I still hadn't heard "Stairway to Heaven."
What?
So I went to. So anyway, we were hanging. It was just very organic. Jimmy and Roy, myself, and the future keyboard player of the late Nick Green of Blue Murder. He was part of that too. And so we were just making music. It was always about the music. It wasn't, I didn't think, oh, wow, it's Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin.
Right.
And so that went well. We played a few gigs and it just felt great. And it was very, very relaxed.
You look like when you watch the videos of the Firm, Radioactive, or any of the tracks, you look like you're having so much fun on stage with those guys that, you've been doing it for years.
Well, I'd been doing gigs on stage since I was 5 years old. So, I mean, stage was second nature to me. I had my parents, all the family musical. So it was very natural. In fact, on the Radioactive video where I'm jumping around like a hyperactive teddy bear. But the thing is, we did 3 takes of that. It's at the Hammersmith Odeon after one of our gigs there in early December. And so I was trying to be respectful of those guys. And I didn't want to be jumping around too much and all that. You know, it's like it's their show.
Right.
Well, so the manager came and said, "Hey, jump around, do your thing like you do." And so that was it. And the whole third take was the one that they used. And so, you know, I was full of life, full of energy, having fun, and did it all on the fretless bass. And that was that. I mean, you know, the thing is with that, I mean, obviously I'm a huge Led Zeppelin fan now. And so, but I didn't really fully understand or appreciate what it was that I was part of. I mean, I was just going with it. I think it served me well that I didn't know anything about Led Zeppelin. I didn't go in thinking, what would John Paul Jones do? Well, I didn't even know who John Paul Jones was. So it was, I just did my thing, and it happened to be on the fretless. And yes, I did. And it wasn't called an audition, but I sat in for a good 4 weeks at least. And Jimmy asked me if I wanted to sit in on the rehearsals of the new band he's working up. And that was how it was framed. It wasn't, there was never any talk of me joining it. It was just playing, and they were working on the album. And then, you know, it obviously went well. And before you know it, we're in the studio recording the album. Everything's first or second take because we're so well rehearsed. It was a dream come true. You know,
good.
It really
you know,
was.
timing, right? Timing is everything, and dreams do come true, and hard work pays. You said you've been doing this at a young age. I've read that you were like 5, and your parents, everybody, and you were reading music and before playing. And I see a lot of kids, young guys, girls are following YouTube and are learning, watching it, which is great. But I know you do the master class classes in the Rock Fantasy camps, Tony. Do you encourage these folks to learn how to read first before? Because now they're players. They think they're players. They're playing, but then they got to read. They should really learn how to read music. I would think. I'm not a musician. Would you agree that they should really learn to read even as much as they're playing? Because if they don't, it kind of gets stagnant.
I find it extremely helpful. Yes. I have situations where I don't use reading at all. I have situations where I completely rely on reading. Knowing and being able to read music helps you to be able to hear it as well. So I know about the theory. I mean, I was very fortunate. My dad taught me at a very young age, 7 years old, understanding the deepest theories of music. I mean, it's something I was obviously, you know, meant to do, but I grasped it all at a very young age. And it just all made sense to me. And so now I draw upon it a lot because I'll wake up in the middle of the night with a song going through my head, or I'm on an airplane or something, don't have an instrument there. I can write it straight to paper and capture an idea without having to have an instrument. And I have my own form of writing. I wouldn't be able to do that without the theory side of it. It helps me with producing. It helps me in so many ways. I mean, if I'm preparing to do a recording session or a gig or a rock and roll fancy camp, I will chart everything. And I do my own kind of shorthand now that's based on real music theory. And so, yes, and to answer a quick answer, it's invaluable, and it makes you a better all-round musician. Because one thing I've been able to do is to adapt and go between different styles. And I mean, I go from playing the heavy stuff of the complex stuff of Derek Sherinian, you know, his excuse me.
Sure. Amazing proud rock.
Yeah. I mean, very complicated,
really
complex.
Deep.
It really is. And lots of time signature changes and a lot going on, to the simple, beautiful, angelic pop of somebody like Donna Lewis. I love you always, forever.
Right.
That's me on that. And it's playing sparsely. It's knowing what not to play. And then I'll do some classical stuff and everything in between. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't have the musical education and also listening to a lot of different styles. I really don't listen too much anymore. And that's not meant to sound arrogant. I don't like to listen to much music because I find it influences my own creativity. I like to keep my musical creative palette pretty clean. But I've listened, I grew up playing big band, show tunes, Rodgers and Hammerstein, Sound of Music, and South Pacific, and all that, and the current pop and rock and ballroom dancing, and of course rock music. I adore Queen, and there's Stevie Wonder and the soul stuff, and so I got a flavor of it all, and it's invaluable. So I see a lot of players out there, and they get a lot of attention. They get a lot of followers and likes, and which is great. But they're also playing one genre, one style,
right?
And so if they want to have a career outside of YouTube, or as a musician that can play lots of different styles, you have to get experienced in that, and there are no shortcuts for it.
Right.
You really have to dive into it. And yes, reading music really helps, because you can, dive into some R&B music. You look at the bass chart and you know what they're playing, and you know how to play. You have a roadmap. It's very, very helpful. So yeah, learn as much as you can. This is my my guidance to it all. Learn as much as you can, and then forget it all and play from the heart.
There you go. And you go to his website at fretlessmonster.com, and he can teach you all you want. There's a little subtitle that says masterclass, or have Tony teach you. Man, Tony, I could spend hours. I admire you, been following you. I got a million questions all over the chart. Two more things. Are you working on a solo album at all with Golden Robot Records?
Yeah, I literally just signed a deal with them. The ink's still drying on that for a solo band deal. I won't be singing that, but the songs are all mine, and I'll be overseeing it, leading it, guiding it. And I can tell you so far that Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addiction will be playing drums. It's going to be fresh too. As you can probably gather, I like to dive deep and experiment and explore, and not just sit back on imagined laurels. So this is going to be fresh and exciting. It's going to have some classic elements, of course, but it's going to be very raw and exciting and tribal and jammy, but great songs too, hopefully. So very excited about that.
I love to hear that. And you're working on a memoir? Did I read somewhere you were working on? Carmine finally put something out. Tony, you know everybody. You got to have stories upon stories. Come on.
Well, Carmine's is all about the the more sordid side. I mean, I saw a lot of that. I participated in a lot of the indulgent side of things, but and some of that will be in there, but I'm not about that. I'm more about the journey, because I've had such a journey of ups and downs, and severe left turns and right turns, where you think that, wow, if I'd only gone that way. I mean, I had to turn down a gig with Pink Floyd. I was offered that.
You signed with Blue Murder, and then you get the phone call, right? Is that the story?
That's right. Yeah. So I wanted to do it, but life wasn't gonna allow it. So I took a right turn instead of a left turn. I took a blue turn instead of a pink turn. But I get philosophical and reflective about that, because I can see how things have unfolded and changed since then. And I was on a pretty reckless path at that point. And who knows how it would have gone. I mean, I spoke to a very dear friend recently who knew me back then. He said, you never know, you might have died. You might have died in a car crash or something. You just don't know. And so we will never know. But yeah, so the book is very reflective like that, on how life takes you on journeys that, it's like The Hobbit, the unexpected journey. But it's very, I guess, spiritual, but very reflective and fun, with some rock and roll stories along the way. I mean, I've encountered some some amazing incidents and things. And I never talk badly about anybody. I put everybody in a good light. And I tell some funny stories about myself and everybody, and some very real and sobering stories too, that, you know, near-death things that I think people can relate to. Everybody can relate to the journey of life. And so mine's been quite extreme in a lot of ways. So we'll see. It needs to be written, and I do love to write.
We can't wait to see it, Tony. And I'm sure somebody out there will gravitate to it, because there's a lesson there. Not, you know, things happen. I always say to my kids, things happen for a reason. You know, we could have made the left or could have made it right, but you know what? We stay forward and we keep on trucking. I kick the door down, and I've had so many doors slammed in my face, and I just laugh. And I've had a great life, and I'm blessed to meet. My brother tells me, you got to write a book, because every time I meet an artist before stage or after stage, there are tickets or no tickets. And it's always a curveball. It's always something funny about it. And I'm a little squid, calamari, little squid and a big C. Carmine will tell you that, but it's all good. Tony, I'm taking so much of your time. I got to tell everybody, man, VHF, go out and buy a Golden Robot Records. Or go to Amazon. It's out there. It just came out officially June 25th. I can't wait to hear album number 2. Wait till I see Joel. I'm like, dude, I don't know what's in that New York City water, but we're up a little bit, an hour and a half. That was crazy, but it's all good stuff. And I'm looking forward to putting Whispers of the Souls, Suspended Animation, and Invisible Thread on our rotation, so everybody gets a chance to hear it. My goodness, Tony, my door is open. I hope I have this opportunity again for round 2, sir.
I welcome it. No, I appreciate your support and enthusiasm and everything, Pat. You're great, and thanks so much. And tell Carmine I said hello next time.
I will certainly do that. I will tag him when we get the video done, so he could read it and see it and call me and call you and yell at us or whatever he wants.
Oh yeah, we love him.
We love him to death. Time to rock a little VHF here on Pat's Soundbytes. What the mister, the one and only, the best one out there, the Fretless Monster himself, Mr. Tony Franklin, right here on Pat's Soundbytes IGTV with Suspended Animation. Right here. Go get it today.
Suspended animation is the slowing of life processes by external means without termination. leads me to believe.